MMA has been around since the 1920s in Brazil and Asia, but it went by several different names. MMA as we know it today was brought to the US in the 1990s by the Gracie family, and that's when the UFC was formed. I'm Lexi, and this is Delightfully Different. My next guest is a professional fighter, and it's a family affair.
Hi, my name's Cole Schaefer, and I'm a pro MMA fighter.
A pro MMA fighter. MMA stands for Mixed Martial Arts. Can you explain exactly what it is and what the difference is between MMA and other kinds of fighting, such as boxing, or if it was just wrestling or grappling?
So the difference is MMA mixes all of them. So there is groundwork. So where boxing is strictly hands, MMA allows us to use like the kickboxing with the kicks, punches, elbows, knees, as well as the wrestling takedowns, grappling. So the jujitsu comes into play on the ground, from top, bottom, ground and pound, things like that. So it kind of mixes all of the sports combined in their own little way. There are a few rules with it, so like no fish hooks and things like that. So like they do have a little bit more. It's not just a free for all.
Right.
There's some structure to it, but it is a little bit more open to style bases and things like that to allow people their own personal styles to kind of adapt and overcome the other styles.
And it's sort of an anything goes sort of a sport, except for those few laws. And in the beginning, they didn't necessarily have those rules. You could do anything in the beginning,
Yep.
and then they changed it as time went on.
Yeah, yeah. When it very first started, and they did it in a bracket style, so you'd fight 5 or 6 fights in a night,
Oh,
and so they would all get together and just kind of beat the hell out of each other. And there was eye gouges, fish hooks, crotch stomps, face stomps. I mean, you could do whatever you wanted to do, kind of thing, to try and get the win. And there
what
was no
are
time limit, so it was all about if you made the other guy quit or not.
what are some of the things that over time have now become against the rules, besides the fish
Um,
hook and the eye gouge and the crotch kicking?
yeah. So crotch kick and all that's gone. They just changed it for 12 to 6 elbows are now legal. You're
Oh,
not allowed to hit the top. There's the mohawk section of the top of the head down the spine. You're not allowed to hit any of that
okay.
from spinal injuries and things like that. Um, you can't stomp, like head stomp a grounded opponent, or you can't head kick a grounded opponent. But again, the rules kind of vary depending on which organization you're in. Because like the one fighting championship allows head kicks to grounded opponents.
Oh,
Like UFC and like most like Utah's athletic commission does not allow that.
right.
And some of the rules vary state to state that way as far as what you're allowed to do. And then amateurs, they just opened it up to allow head kicks in amateurs. While I was an amateur, that you weren't allowed to kick anybody in the head from standing position.
Okay.
And then there's no elbows as an amateur, and you can only knee the body.
Okay.
There's a few like little stipulation, little tweaky differences between pro and amateurs, but
How often do they change those rules? Is it something that happens like on an annual basis? Is it like or twice a year? Is it like conference?
they usually it depends on what's going on. Um, there's every now and then they'll try to change them, but it's usually about a year or two between them for major
Okay.
ones, just because they don't want to keep changing a bunch of rules and make it hard to follow and everything like that. So they try to keep them fairly similar. And a lot of them are mostly just safety factors for the
Right.
fighters and things like that, just to make sure, everybody gets to go home okay at the end of the day.
And there's a reason why some of the fights are in very specific places that are especially the big ones that are televised, and that's because of the state laws.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
what are the states that make it the easiest for you to do it?
Vegas, honestly, is one of the easiest ones. It was actually kind of weird because New York, which had like Madison Square Garden and all those, and like the big ones for boxing, they didn't allow MMA until 5 years ago or
Right.
something like that. And so it was like, it's kind of weird that like a state like that that has such a rich history in fighting would kind of push it away until just now.
Right.
And so most states have it now, and it's pretty open to go into. And there's a few states, I don't think Montana has a commission yet. And so, like, a lot of their fights are technically unsanctioned
Oh,
just because
okay.
they don't have a commission to sanction them. Not to say that they're not legal fights or anything like that, that they're not taking the precautions they're supposed to. They just don't have as much regulatory red tape to cut through that way. But you'll notice a lot of like the big shows and stuff like that won't go to smaller states like that for those reasons, I think.
And you reside in the state of Utah. What is it? What are the rules like here in the state of Utah compared to some of the other states?
So I've only fought in Utah.
Okay.
I've been to Vegas to corner for a friend that fought in the UFC. And then I actually went to Brazil and helped coach him there. They're honestly, Utah is really on top of it and pretty right there with the rest of this everywhere else.
Okay.
They do a really good job of making sure that they stay as up to date and on top of things as they can to make sure everybody stays in line with the higher levels. And that's why the UFC's come to Utah a couple of different times and things like that is our promotion, our it's technically called PSWAZA, the athletic commission. They do a great job taking care of everything and making sure that everybody kind of follows the same rules, has the same guidelines, and they really try to keep up with everybody else.
All right. All right. Now, can you explain the weight classes and what is your weight class?
So my weight class is 185.
Okay.
Um, I'm trying to think of the lower ones, but I say that's the hard one because like I know 205 heavyweights 265, and then 170 is below me, 165 I believe it is. And I think it's 155 after that, 145. I want to say there's 142.
So it's a lot. It's a lot more than I was expecting. I thought it would be like, three.
Oh no.
Boxing is only a few different weight classes. Am I crazy?
We're about the same as boxing.
Okay. Okay. I am.
Boxing, like I said, you don't see a lot of the smaller weights because like you have your cruisers, your welters, your bantams, and things like that. And
Yeah.
you see a whole ton of like they're there though, but everybody just wants to see the heavyweight title of the world on those ones. They're the they're the big ones that everybody gets the knockouts and sees the big damage.
How hard is it to make weight?
Uh, depends on the day. No, so a lot of that depends on the fighter,
Okay.
um, where they start at, what they're doing as far as what kind of shape they're in. Like as far as me, you usually get about a 6 to 8 week camp that you sign a fight for a contract. You're about 8 weeks out. And then usually before that, you've been in training for a little while, trying to get your body back into shape so that you're not like coming into it fresh and just hurt yourself. Um, so I usually start around 215 and start working my way down over time. And
Okay.
as long as you diet and you do the things and you're training and you're maintaining the right things, it's not hard. So the day of, I'll lose anywhere from 8 to 10 pounds the day of.
Holy cow, that's a lot in one day.
It's all water weight, so you lose that and you hydrate and it comes back decent.
What happens if you don't make weight? What if do they weigh you the day before the fight?
Yep, so you have 24-hour weigh-ins. So the day before the fight, they'll weigh you in. And if you don't make weight, it's in your contract that if you're over by X amount, they get a percentage of your purse and things like that. So you lose money off your
Oh,
money goes to them
okay.
because you've broke the contract, and so they get to take a percentage of your purse. And as the more weight you miss by, the more percent they get.
Interesting. I didn't realize that. Huh. It's not like you can't fight or you are put into a different class. You still fight the same person you were going to.
Your opponent can choose. So like they can either take the percentage of your purse or they can say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Wow. Huh.
And so it's up to the opponent to say, hey, he kind of screwed me over and didn't make weight, and so I'm not going to take the fight, and he's not going to get paid at all.
Okay.
Or it could be, I'm getting paid his purse too, so I might as well take the fight.
Okay.
So it's one of those where like, depends on how much you're making off of it, I guess.
All right. Let's say it's the day of and you got to go get weighed in that night. What are some of those tricks to lose the water weight or that last 8 to 10 pounds that you want to get off?
So I mean, you honestly start the week before. You
Oh,
start really flushing the water, so you start drinking gallon or more a day of water to try and help flush your system out, so that you're hydrated and overhydrated, and you're actually like it helps your body release some of the sodiums and things like that in your body, and helps you get rid of some of that potassium and that to help open up your pores a little bit too. And then that last day, you wake up, drink a little bit of water, and then that's it. Go sit in the sauna, sweat it out, and hang out. Put
So
on a
you
good
go
podcast or a movie and just
try
hang
so
out.
hard not to eat.
Uh-huh.
Do you find yourself more hungry or thirsty on that day?
Thirsty.
Okay,
Definitely.
interesting. And then after you make the weight and you are going to fight the next night, do you go out and eat a whole bunch of stuff?
No.
No?
You get a little more selective on what you put into your system.
Okay.
Because the big thing is if you go eat a bunch of red meat and stuff like that, that takes a long time to digest. It sits in your stomach. It doesn't really get back into your body as fast.
Okay.
So you start, your carbs and things like that that are going to be quick and get back into your system faster. Your rehydration drinks, things like that, like liquid IVs and things like that that have a lot of sodium, potassium in them to help get that stuff back into your system faster. Like I said, eat some like chicken or something like that to kind of like get the proteins coming back in, but you don't want to have a bunch of proteins sitting in you. And like I said, bananas and things like that that sit in your stomach for a while and take a while to digest. And you don't want to have that stuff just taking up room and just sitting there.
Okay.
So my go-to is peanut butter and honey. I like those. They're
That
quick
sounds
energy.
good.
They're easy. Your body breaks them down pretty fast, so you kind of get right back to moving. And
And then after your fight that night, do you go out? Do you have like a tradition that you do after
uh,
fights?
that depends on if you win or lose.
Okay. But either way, it's going to involve some eating.
Uh-huh. Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Possibly a little drinking.
Yeah, yeah.
What is your training regimen like? Like, how many days a week are you working out, and what sort of different things are you doing besides just practicing fighting?
So I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. So when you start signing for the fight, you'll start doing 2 days where early mornings you start going into the gym to lift, do some cardio on the side, do your own little kind of circuit workouts and things like that. Then in the evening, you go into the gym, train down there with your partners and things like that to try and get a more active flow and things like that to work the skills you need to work on. Yeah. So about 6 days a week, twice a day, you're kind of going and
Wow.
you'll have your higher intensity cardio days, your higher intensity strength days. And then you have the spar days that you kind of like, well, I'm not going to push as hard in the weights, but I'm going to go try and go real hard at the practice and push myself and
It's a lot
try
of
and
working out then. It takes up most of your day.
yeah, it takes a lot of time. It takes a
Okay.
lot of time out of life.
How long have you been doing it?
2014, so 10 years.
10 years. Okay. And did you start doing another kind of fighting before you switched over to MMA, or did you go
Uh,
straight to the cage fights?
so I wrestled through high school and college, and
Okay.
then from there I got into it.
What made you want to make that switch?
Um, Honestly, it was one of those things I didn't want to do.
Oh,
'Cause I was honestly really, everybody kept saying, "Oh, you should do it, you should do it," and I was like, I really don't want to get kicked in the head.
yeah.
And like nothing about, I was like, I've watched so many wrestlers go to duck down to take a shot or something, get kicked right in the head, and I was like, nothing about that seems like a good time. And then I actually was helping a buddy get ready for some fights. And I went and watched it. I was like, no, I could probably do this. And then I found out that the amateurs couldn't head kick. And so I was like, oh, it gives me a little bit of grace time to like learn how to do this stuff before they start going for that. So I was like, maybe I could do this. And so that's kind of where it started, was helping my friend get ready for his fights and kind of build off of that
And have you been kicked in the head yet?
a lot.
Okay. And how does that feel?
Not great. I'll tell you what, I'd rather be kicked than kneed or elbowed in the head.
Really?
Oh yeah. The
Okay.
kick you can at least kind of roll with. When you get kneed, it's they're bringing your head down into it, or the elbows, they just split you open and you start bleeding. And
Oh,
so
yeah. All
there's the
right.
kick to the head was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And to get your leg high enough to kick somebody in the head, like the person has to be fairly flexible and they have to kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And not all people actually have that skill set at the lower levels and things like that I've been at. So I've been able to kind of save myself from some of the big things.
Okay. Getting kicked in the head.
Yeah.
How often do you fight? Like how many times a year?
Um, when I first went pro, I tried to take 3 fights in 3 months,
Okay.
and that ended up breaking my body down too much, and to where trying to make weight 3 times and having only 4 to 6 weeks in between fights to turn around, and that just kind of worked me down too much, and
Yeah.
so I've kind of dropped back to 2 or 3 fights a year, just to
Okay.
kind of give myself time between to heal up and things like that. Let my body recover a little bit more from it because as we get older, it gets harder.
It does. Yeah, it definitely does. And you're still pretty young.
Yeah.
How many professional fights have you had so far?
I've had 10.
10. Okay. Where do they usually happen?
So most of mine have been in Utah. So I've had one at the UVU, Masonic Temple up in Salt Lake, and then the Maverick Center.
Okay.
I've had a few there, and then there's a couple that were in like smaller bars and things like that.
Are any of them are they ever televised or anything like that?
They'll get on YouTube, and then there's a pay-per-view options for them for like
Okay.
the promotion. They'll do the pay-per-view, so you can save some of my friends from driving all the way out of Heber down to Salt Lake to come back. So,
It's got to feel pretty good though if you look out there and see friends and family cheering you on.
oh yeah, yeah, it's great.
Is there anything in particular that they yell when they cheer you on? Is there like a Cole cheer?
I don't know. I kind of block some of that stuff out.
You
Trying to focus
probably
on
have
not getting
to.
kicked in the head.
I'm assuming you got to get into like a very specific mental state that day, or does it start that day, or do you start getting into that mental state ahead of time? Because I mean, you guys are beating the crap out of each other.
Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things where you don't want to sit there and think about it and stew on it and give yourself the nerves and psych yourself out and do all the stuff. So honestly, no, I kind of have like the day of, I kind of hang out with my family. We do our stuff. I'll go hit a bag a few times for, do my 4 or 5 rounds, just bag work, just to work a little bit, get a sweat broke, feel good about things. And then I'll just kind of relax for a while until you go down. And the thing is, like, usually for if doors open at say 5 o'clock, we got to be there at before 5 o'clock. And if your main event or something like that, you might not be fighting until midnight, 1 a.m.
Right.
So you kind of got to sit down there and just kind of hang out. And
That's a long time.
yeah,
They
so I like to be a little earlier in the card if I can. It's a little nicer on you.
So I've done a little bit of MMA fighting through my career in radio, and I fought somebody once, and it was
Okay.
more of an exhibition, obviously, because I wasn't that good at it. But I did get to go back, and I'm calling it backstage because I do acting, but it's probably not what you'd call it. Back there where everybody's getting warmed
Same,
up.
same. Yeah.
It was. I felt like I could cut the tension with a knife. It was extremely eye opening when I went back there, and I felt like, holy crap, I'm out of place. These guys are getting in a mental place that I do not understand, and they were ready to go. What's it like for you when you're getting ready to go, like right beforehand, and the venue's filled up, and you can hear the other fighters out there?
Um, it's a lot to try and break down because you are trying to think and put yourself in a state of I'm literally going to go out and try and beat this person to a bloody pulp, and I'm trying to stop them and knock them unconscious and break things that if I can and try and hurt them in any way I can. And honestly, I'm kind of weird like that because I like to joke around in the back room and mess around with people, and
You do?
I do because it there's so much tension and everything like that that
Yeah.
it just feels weird. So like I'm always joking with people and my coaches and that, and they always make fun of me because I'm usually messing around doing stupid things because to be that tense the whole time, I hate it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I feel like it just drains you. I just like stress things and overthinking it, and just everybody's just like got their hoods on and just sitting there in their sweaters and just you know you just feel that tension. I've never been that guy. I've always when I've got ready to walk out is okay when the door closes, that's it.
Okay.
It's over. We're in. And so usually once that hits, I walk in, I slap my face a couple times, slap my chest, let myself, okay, this is it. This is we're here.
Do you have a specific song that you walk out to?
It changes. I rotate around.
Oh, it does. Okay. What sort of music is it?
I walked out to with the Who's Wolf Totem a couple of times.
Okay. I like that.
Kansas, Carry On My Wayward Son was the
So you like
last
the classic
few.
rock to walk out to?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have like a posse that goes out with you?
So no, you're only allowed to have your coaches go out with you.
Okay.
So So yeah, you just have your coaches, your corners walk out with you.
And do you have like a day job? Do you have another career?
Yep. Yep. Oh
You,
yeah. Yeah.
what do you do when you're not fighting?
I work for Wasatch County Solid Waste, so I'm a garbage man.
You're a garbage man. Okay, that's what you do
Yep.
during the day. And do you want
Yep.
to make fighting your main jam? Do you want to make that your full-time? I guess I'm saying full-time, it doesn't make sense, but do you want to make that your do you want to quit the other
Career.
stuff? Do you want to quit?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
I like the other stuff. It's nice to have a day job and go out and have insurance and benefits and a
Yes.
livelihood that I know is there and PTO and sick days. And I mean, I hate to say it, but it's really hard to meet too many fighters that aren't the upper echelon, that aren't broke and living in their cars and hate their lives.
Yeah.
Um, we kind of had the running joke that you couldn't start a fight gym based on fighters because they're always broke. Uh, and the honest truth of it is, it's one of those things that there's not a longevity in the sport.
Yeah.
You don't see too many guys over 40 that are fighting.
I was gonna say, how long do you think you can go before you're burnt out?
I'm getting close.
You're in your 30s right now, though, yeah?
Yep, I'm
You're not
35 right now.
okay.
Yeah.
And what is like do you only make money if you win?
No. So you get paid to show, you get a certain amount of show money and win money, and then you get a percentage of your ticket sales and things like that. So
Okay.
help to sell tickets and, talk people into coming and seeing you and supporting you. And then my wife usually helps make shirts and things like that to sell to try and help make a little bit of extra on it. And
I saw that you had some merch. What is the average amount that you win, like as an amateur and then as a professional, and like going someone? And obviously, we've recently seen some UFC stuff that was pretty big, but
not even close to that.
yeah.
So as an amateur, you're not allowed to get paid. So all you get is a percentage of your ticket sales.
Okay.
Um, so a lot of the promotions will just give you a percentage based on how much you sell. So the more that you sell, they'll give you up to 25% type of thing. So like if you really push tickets and you do push it hard, get a few people to show up, they'll give you a percentage of it to help you out.
Interesting.
Um, Once you turn pro, I think my first fight was a 3-3. You get 300 to win, show, 300 to win. And then as you win and your record progresses and you get better and things like that, they up it. And so the last fight I had, I think I was at 12-12.
Okay.
The show 12 to win.
Wow. So you can end up winning a lot of money if you are doing well and you succeed.
Yeah.
You're
Yep.
not gonna bank on it though.
There's a fine line because when you think about it, you're sitting there going, okay, I could make, $2,400, which is a nice little chunk of change. But then you think, okay, I have my gym fees, which I'm paying every month. I have my travel fees for my gas to and from.
Right.
I have my other gym for working out. I have to pay for. You got the time away from your family and things like that. And
Yeah.
probably going to end up in physical therapy for a few things for the bumps and bruises. So it's like at the end of the day, when it all is said and done, it's
Okay.
what you're taking home. And then you get 1099 usually, so you're paying taxes on it as well.
Right.
And
Okay.
so
And then you're winning stuff, so the taxes are even higher.
yeah, exactly. And so it's not as much as you would like hope that it would be. Like I
Right.
said, that's my friend when he first signed on for the UFC, I think his was 3-3 for the
Okay.
UFC for his first contract for his first three fights. And when he signed again for his second contract, he was 5-5. And so you're sitting there thinking $10,000 to fight for the one of the biggest promotions in the world, and the lower level guys are not gonna make what these upper level guys are making. And
Right. Right.
there's a reason for it. Those guys have put in the time and they've paid their dues and they've taken their beating, so they've earned what they're getting. But
Right.
there's a big discrepancy between the top end and the low end of what they're gonna get.
Okay.
So
What is the worst that you've been injured?
yeah. I've had my orbital bone broke.
I don't even know what that is.
It's the floor underneath your eye.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Um, So yeah, it's a real thin bone, but when you get pressure directly into your eye, it actually just kind of shatters out as a protective for your eye.
Mm.
Had that one broke, had my nose busted a few times. Those are the main ones I've had. I've had knee surgeries and that over time.
I've seen a glorious photograph of you all bloody on your face. Was that
Yeah,
from a broken nose?
yeah, that was my busted nose.
Okay. That's a good photograph.
Yeah,
What's the worst you've done to somebody else?
I broke a guy's jaw.
Okay. All right. How does it feel when something like that happens?
You don't even know
Okay.
it. You're fighting and you're going, and the ref stops it, and you win, but it's by the time they go to the hospital and things like that, and you find out it's a couple days later, and it's like, oh, that happened. Okay,
Yeah, you know
that's
what you're getting
awesome.
into, I guess, when you're doing it. You might
You
break a
signed
jaw.
off on the contract, so that's kind of
Okay.
that's the downside of it is you're going in there to do damage and take damage, so
Yep, yep.
kind of hard
Do you
not to.
ever have to fight a friend?
Actually, I did 2 fights ago. I fought a guy that I used to train with. His name was Chris Chu, and I've trained with him for a while. I actually helped him get his first fight. Got him in contact with the promotion that got him his first fight and that. And it was kind of weird because, like I said, I actually really liked the guy and really respected him and had to go out and beat the hell out of him.
Does it
And
change your attitude, or are
yeah,
you more hesitant to try and you go in balls to the wall no matter what,
yeah, I figure we're doing the same thing. We're trying to finish each other. So
right? All
that's he was
right.
going in to kill me and choke me out. So I figured I'd do the exact same to him. So and it kind of be a disservice and kind of a shot at him if I didn't try that hard to do what I need to do. I took it easy on him. That's not what you want to do to your friend. You go out there and you give him everything you got. And
All right. And
so
this student has become the teacher.
yeah.
Um, how does your family feel about what you do? I know you're married and you got a kid. And
Yeah.
how does she feel? She seems very supportive and like your mom and dad and stuff like that. How do they feel?
Yeah. So my dad is actually one of my corners.
Okay.
So he's really supportive, goes practice with me. He's basically coached me wrestling from the very start when I was third grade.
Okay. Wow.
He's been with me a long time, coaching and cornering and helping me there. And so he's been with me through all of it. He's helped train with me, do stuff like that. My mom was not super excited when I first started, as most moms wouldn't be.
Right.
But at the very first fight, she was the one up screaming the loudest to beat the hell out of him. So it turned around pretty quick. As far as the wife, she's very supportive, does a lot of meal prep, does a lot of things like that to help with the house, taking care of the kids, stuff like that. Because again, I am gone a lot because of it. Early
Right.
mornings, going to the gym, late nights, going to the gym. So that puts a lot of pressure on her to make sure, kids are taken care of, everything like that. House
Well,
and things are ready. And so it is a lot of stress on her. But she seems to really thrive in it and go for it. So she has a lot of fun with it. My daughter, she loves it. She's basically grown up in the fight gym with us. I mean, we had the little speed bag hanging off of her car seat so that she could hit a speed bag while she was driving
oh,
and things
that's
like
cute.
that.
Oh.
Uh, so she's been around it her whole life, and so she boxes with me every night on the bed. She'll fight me, and
What
she's always there. She's excited.
what if she grows up and says, "I think I want to start MMA fighting, Dad"? What are you
That's
gonna
her
say?
choice. That's her choice. If that's what she wants to do, I'll help her and support her in any way that we can. And
I love it. That's awesome. I know that there are a lot of folks out there that see MMA fighting, cage fighting, and they think that it is absolutely nuts. What do you tell those people who are like, yeah, that's you shouldn't be hurting each other like that?
at the same time, every sport has the chance to cause some serious injury. I mean, look at any of your snowboarding.
That's what I was
I
just
mean,
about to say.
you
You
can
get way
wreck
more hurt
yourself
doing
so bad,
that.
right? Like, I've watched people get knocked out and break arms and break legs, and skiing, same thing. And I mean, motocross, and I mean, any of your sports that are active sports can go so wrong. And I guess that's where at the same time it's like that's why there's different levels of it of amateur, professional, and the amount of time you put into it and actually train for it and get ready for it and how much you really try to honestly prepare yourself is a big factor on it. And
Okay.
so, like I said, it's one of those things that you can really hurt yourself in any sport. So Yeah, this one might have a little bit more chance of something going wrong and getting hurt. But at the same time, my sister races barrels professionally on horses, and it's like put a 1,200 pound animal underneath you and try and run in a pattern and at
Right?
full speed.
You can get
Odds of
real
her
hurt.
getting hurt are pretty high. At the same time, I'm taking a fight, every 3 to 4 months. She's doing those almost every weekend.
Right?
So
Yeah,
it's
you're not doing
it's
it
direct.
as often either. That probably makes a huge difference. What does it feel like getting thrown against the cage?
Um, it's different. It's a chain link fence. It's not comfortable, but
What does the floor feel like?
so the floor is not as bad as you would think. It's a metal frame, but then there's plywood boards, so it has some give to it, and then there's a foam on top of that, and so it's got a little bit of cushion to it. And that's why a lot of time when people get slammed, you hear the big boom. Is
Yes.
it's the hollow floor, so it sounds bigger than it is because the floor does actually have a little bit of give to it, things like that.
I was surprised at how bouncy it was when I got in there. That's the
Yeah,
thing that surprised me the most because I got knocked to the ground and my head hit it and everybody freaked out and I was like, it didn't hurt.
yeah,
You just sort of bounced off of it. It
yeah.
was nowhere near as bad as it looked or sounded.
Yep, you absorb a little bit more in that one. The cage, like I said, with the chain link, it does kind of grab a little bit and you rub a little on it, but it's got some flex to it too. So it's not like you're just hitting a wall.
Right.
And it's nicer than a ring because, like, I've seen the MMA fights and like the boxing ring where they go through the ropes and they're like all tangled up inside the ropes and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's got that perk to it.
Okay. Do you have a signature move?
No,
Whatever you can get in there.
yeah, it's you just go in there and do what you got to do.
Are you better at boxing or kickboxing or grappling? What's your best,
Definitely,
strongest area?
definitely getting them to the ground, wrestling, getting them down there, and then going to work from there, kind of mauling people and
Do a
breaking
little
things.
ground and pound.
Yep.
That's still legal, right? Ground and
Oh
pound.
yeah, that's a big part of it.
Okay, good. What is the hardest part about doing this?
Honestly, the amount of time it takes, because it does take a lot of time away from family, friends, hobbies, activities. Honestly, if you go out with friends and they're like, "Oh, like we're all gonna go out and drinking," and it's like, "Cool, I'm gonna have my Coke and sit in the back and enjoy this."
Okay.
Like, "Oh, we're all going to go out to dinner and have, go hit this place." And it's like, awesome.
Mm.
I'll bring my meal with me then. Just kind of sit in the back. So there's a lot that you miss out on just because you do spend a lot of time with it, and you have to give up a lot to make sure that like Christmases and Thanksgivings and things like that, where it's like, oh yeah, like everybody's just pounding down, and I get to have my glass of water, a little bit of turkey, and you portion out your plate to where it looks nice, and enjoy it.
What's your favorite thing about it?
Honestly, just the adrenaline of it, of getting in there, and you get that adrenaline dump and the high of being in there. It's definitely a whole nother level of energy that it gives you.
How do you recover after a fight? Are there any specific things you do? Are you jumping in cold water or anything like that?
Doing some ice baths, I got my own TENS unit and things like that, massage guns, and a lot of Tiger Balm creams and ibuprofen.
How long does it take after a fight to like start feeling a little bit better?
It depends on the fight. I've had
Mm.
fights that, you're hurting for 3, 4 weeks, concussions, things like that. Then I've had fights that the day after, like the day after my one fight was the opener of the deer hunt. And so I had Tess up on the mountain. And we were hiking and hunting the day after.
Man,
So
that's amazing.
depends on
And
depends on
I
how the fight goes.
okay. And I see that you have someone that was imitating you, trying to hustle money from people. You've become popular enough that you've got an imitator.
People are sad. That's that's the sad thing is it's you try to make a little bit of money and you try to do the stuff and like everybody that knows me knows I am not gonna go out and harass people and try and like hustle things, and I'll put on there if I have shirts available if anybody wants them. I'm not gonna go tag people and do all the stupid things like that.
Right.
It was funny because, like I said, I finally found it because my wife had to tell me, "Hey, just so you know, there's someone out there posting this stuff." And I was like, "What the hell?" And they're from New York, and it's a female, and I was like, "Yeah, it's an awkward picture of a guy with the shirt off to be a female, like standing there wearing shirt off with a beard." Like, yep, that's a female. It's like, so
Well, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, so they think you're important enough to imitate. What kind of a person does it take to do this?
Honestly, anybody. Like
Yeah,
that's the funny thing is like I've met stay-at-home moms that were just, oh, I just kind of want to work out, and they get in there and they're beasts. And I've met some of the guys that were like, oh, I'm a gangster from the streets, and like I've had all these street fights, and they get in there and just get the piss beat out of them. And so honestly, anybody that wants to do it and wants to put in the time to actually learn and do it can do it. And so that's the biggest thing is the people that are willing to learn and willing to put in the time to actually go through the workouts and the dedication to do it will do it.
I love it. Do you have any advice for somebody that wants to get started?
Find a gym.
Okay.
Find a good gym because there's a lot of gyms out there and some of them will just beat the hell out of people. I know I have friends that like went to Vegas to be fighters and they got treated like a piece of meat. They just got beat on by the upper levels of guys that were already at the bigger levels and just beat the hell out of them. And it sucked. It puts a bad taste in their mouth, and they're just kind of like, oh, it's not worth doing. But then like there's a lot of gyms right here in town. Agima down in Provo, they do a really good job. They have a really good team that's really skill based and they take their time and they all understand some people are at higher levels, so we're not going to put them with the people at the middle and lower levels that are starting out because it's not worth getting them hurt. And then they also have a lot of people that are past the higher levels and into retirement and things like that that just want to help and work with people, and so they bring people along really well.
Okay.
Gladiator Fight Academy up in Salt Lake was the other one that I went to.
Find a good gym if you're looking to get started. Thanks for the interview, Cole. You can follow Cole on his socials, which have been posted wherever you got this podcast. Thanks for joining me this week on Delightfully Different. If you or someone you know lives life differently, I'd love an interview. Email me, lexiontheradio@gmail.com. That's LEXI on the radio @gmail.com, or go to delightfullydifferentpodcast.com and have a delightful week.